Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo Sports Center. I am Don, and today we are going to discuss whether or not the Bills should fire Sean McDermott after this 2023 season. Now, McDermott, head coach for the Buffalo Bills, has gone through some turbulence this year, probably the biggest amount of turbulence in his entire tenure so far here with the Bills. Now, I'm going to put this out right here, right at the beginning, because I don't want any viewers to misunderstand where I stand on this. I believe the Bills should fire Sean McDermott, so if you sense any inkling of a bias during this video, that is why. My heart is set out on the Bills firing McDermott, but I'm going to give you some reasons why they shouldn't, and of course some reasons why they should. But before I get to that, make sure to hit that like button and to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and join the Discord below. That'll help grow this community even greater. Yep, there we go. Didn't butcher that one, folks. Now let's talk a little bit about why the Bills should not fire Sean McDermott. And it's because you can see down there, his regular season record is very, very good. It's actually second best all time in Buffalo Bills history, only behind the great coach Marv Levy, who, by the way, also didn't win a single Super Bowl as a coach for the Buffalo Bills. The only difference, though, between Levy and McDermott is that Levy actually made it to a couple of Super Bowl appearances. Not a couple, 4. 1990 through 1994, or 93, or whatever it was. But, yeah, he made it to a bunch of different Super Bowl appearances. Sean McDermott has yet to appear in a Super Bowl. In fact, his team has only appeared in the AFC Championship game once, and that was back in 2020 when they went on a somewhat of a little Cinderella run, knocking off the Indianapolis Colts in the wildcard round, then beating the Baltimore Ravens on that insane pick six that went 100 yards from Taron Johnson. And then they got killed by the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Now, during that time, it was clear that the Bills were not necessarily ready for that point yet. Patty Mahomes and that team was still leagues and miles better than the Bills were ever imagining they could be that year. So 2021, the team decided we need a couple more pieces. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders as an insurance blanket option, drafted Gabe Davis as well, and, well, things got a little bit better. 2020, they got better. 2021, offensively, they got better, but they lost some huge games, and that's where the first big point of why McDermott should not be continuing on as head coach is because this team simply is not clutch. In the biggest of games, in the biggest of moments, these guys turn out to be big-time losers. Sean McDermott turns out to make some questionable decisions that, upon review, don't really seem to make all that much sense. If you go back to 2021, we can remember the game where Josh Allen slipped on a 4th and inches deep in Tennessee Titans territory in a back-and-forth game on Monday Night Football. Then against the Buccaneers, the Bills lost in overtime after neglecting and failing and deciding not to go forward on 4th down in overtime. And then you also think about, of course, the 13 seconds game. Yeah, that was a really, really bad performance by the coaching staff. In fact, I think the coaching staff and their decisions are part of the reason why the Bills lost that game. And not just a little part, it was a big part of why the Bills lost that game. Failing to go for 2 when you're up by 2, you could have made it a 37-33 game and forced Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to go all the way down the field instead of having to go down 30 yards. And even on top of that, instead of just squib kicking it and trying to drain a couple more seconds off the clock, the Bills decided to let them kick off and not make it returnable. They did not allow that punt or that kickoff return to be returnable, and that made it even easier for Patrick Mahomes to throw a couple times down the middle of the field to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and quickly and easily get into field goal range. And then once you get to overtime, it's the defense that lost the Bills this game. Reminder, and of course everyone knows, Josh Allen did not have an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime in that playoff game. No, instead Mahomes and the Chiefs won the coin toss. They immediately drove down the field pretty easily, won the game on a Travis Kelce 6-yard touchdown pass over the shoulder of Matt Milano in the far corner of the end zone. So that game was on the defense. It was also on the coaching staff. It was a clear mismanagement of time. 13 seconds. You would think you could not let the other team get into field goal range that easily in 13 seconds? Well, Leslie Frazier and the Buffalo Bills decided, you know what, we're going to let them walk in anyways and try to get some more ratings here for the NFL. So that was a huge strike. And then comes the 2022 season where you go, the narratives are the Bills are Super Bowl contenders. They are right there. They were nearly there. They were just 13 seconds away from probably going all the way to the Super Bowl. Well, this year is going to be our year. Well, it started out like that. There were some huge wins over the Los Angeles Rams on the opening night against the Kansas City Chiefs. But then came the middle of the season where perhaps one of the craziest games in NFL history occurred between the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings. And I think we all remember that game and how badly the Bills capitulated that game. Because on defense, the defense decided to send off a prevent defense on 4th and 18. You would think that's okay, right? Well, no. Justin Jefferson converted one of the craziest catches, most insane plays I think I've ever seen on 4th and 18. Now, you might be asking, Don, all of this sounds like the other team just got really lucky. Well, no, most of the time, it comes down to the defense and their schematics. Guess who runs the defense most of the time? Before it was Leslie Frazier with a lot of help from Sean McDermott, but now it's only Sean McDermott. This has always been his defense. This has been his schematics. His guys were brought in, and guess what? Not good. Not great results. For a defensive coach in these big games, his defense really, really lays an egg. And then you keep going on to the divisional round game, and yes, the Bills had a lot of offensive mismanagement, but even then you could point to Sean McDermott, because guess who hired Ken Dorsey? It was Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. Allen lobbied for him, Sean McDermott obliged. And they let Ken Dorsey take a Maserati of an offense and turn it into a Honda CR-V. And not that there's anything wrong with a Honda CR-V. It's durable, it's fine, it does the job. But for something that has so much potential that it could be way greater, a Honda CR-V, you don't really want to settle for just above average. You want to go the extra mile and get that Maserati. And that is a huge part as well why the Bills have continued to lose a lot of games in 2023. Big games where the offensive just stunk because of Ken Dorsey, who was given authority by Sean McDermott. Week 1 against the Jets, that was a terrible game where the Bills never threw across the middle of the field. Then Week 5 in London, where they lost to the Jaguars. A couple weeks later against the Patriots. A couple of weeks later against the Broncos on Monday Night Football. And now it's this Broncos game where I really want to highlight some of what Sean McDermott has done. Now, a couple of these losses, especially to the Patriots, the Broncos, and most recently the Philadelphia Eagles, it's been Sean McDermott's defense that has had the chance to get one more stop and close the game out. One more stop. And in all 3 of those games, and nearly the Thursday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defense failed. Sean McDermott sends all-out blitzes when he doesn't need to, and instead of getting to the quarterback, it's just making the opposing offenses have to do a little less work because they know all they have to do is float one up high in the air, and hopefully they got someone open down there, down the field, anywhere. And that's happened against the Denver Broncos, and then in that Broncos game, Sean, instead of telling your guys to substitute off the field, you could have just left the defense out there where you knew you already had 11 players, and that kick, if you only had 11 players on the first time, that kick would have been no good, and the Bills wouldn't be in the dire position that they're at right now. They could have been 7-5 at this moment, but instead they're 6-6. And even if you go back to the Patriots game, how do you let Mac Jones and that Patriots offense dice your defense up, not just on that final drive, which was embarrassing in so many ways, but throughout that entire game? That was embarrassing. That was terrible. Terrible schematics. You let Mac Jones slice you up in 2023. That would get nearly every single defensive coach that it happened to fired. But it doesn't happen with Sean McDermott because he's the head coach and the defensive coordinator. So you can't really fire both of them mid-season. Otherwise, you're probably going to have even more turmoil, right? Right. And then most recently, and perhaps one of the ugliest chokes all time by the Buffalo Bills. They were up 10 points at halftime over the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a 17-7 game. And you know what Sean McDermott told his defense? You guys did good enough. And you know what happened next? Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles would rattle off 30 points in both the second half and 6 more points in overtime. So total of 30 points in the second half plus overtime. And that is embarrassing in its own right. You cannot let Josh Allen walk off the field twice with a lead and tell him to go back out there and say, sorry, buddy, the defense is just too injured. No, this defense is not too injured. Yes, they are really bad, but you could draw up better plays than having all-out blitzes when the Eagles are driving down the field. That's only making it easier and giving their playmakers more space. That is basic football 101. Basic football. And, some of this stuff has to do with luck. Like Jake Elliott nailing a 60-yard field goal in the wind and the rain. That is insane. And most times that doesn't go in. But that never should have been happening in the first place. If you're a defensive guy, you would think to not let the other offense get into even a whiff of a scoring position like that. And after that, the Bills had 20 seconds left on the clock, and their offense is performing at one of the best, in some of the best spaces that they have all season long. And do you know what Sean McDermott does with 20 seconds and a timeout? He kneels the ball out. Playing not to lose. He was playing not to lose. You can't win games when you're just playing not to lose. You need to play to win the game. You can't sit on both of your hands, close your eyes, put a blindfold on, and hope to not get hit by a bus in the middle of the road. That does not happen. But that's how Sean McDermott views football games. And it's because of that incompetent mentality why Josh Allen has seen his prime years slowly tick away and been wasted away. Because of mentality like that. When Josh Allen is playing at such a high level, you want to be winning for him. Yet in 2 of his greatest games ever, 1 against the Eagles, 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs, he lost both times having walked off the field with a lead. And not even both times, 3 times, because he walked off at the end of the fourth quarter with the lead, he walked off in overtime with a 3-point lead, and then he walked off, of course, with 13 seconds in a lead. So that is unacceptable play. And every single major game, the defense has let the team down. And when your coach claims to be a defensive coach, that is unacceptable. And at this point, I've seen a lot of comparisons between Sean McDermott and Brandon Staley, and now I'm starting to believe it. And this is troubling because before the season, I didn't think the Bills needed to fire Sean McDermott. I didn't think he was the crux of all this Bills issues. I thought that how he built the culture, how he got this team from the drought team to where it is now, were all reasons why we should keep him. But now it's clear that the Bills are not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott. It's simply not going to happen. And unfortunately, why I think he's going to stay is because of this figure below me. He and Brandon Beane both signed contract extensions all the way up until the 2027 season. So we have 2025, 26, and 27 still with Sean McDermott. He's under contract for 3 more years. And Terry Pegula has not thrown a whole lot of money around recently. You really think he wants to shell out and pay a guy who's not even in the organization anymore? Like how we're seeing Mark Davis pay Josh McDaniels to not even coach the team anymore? I don't think so. And it's because of that short-sighted decision to extend him until 2027 that I think is going to be the reason why McDermott is still going to be the coach next season. Despite him not progressing this team past just being a mere playoff contender, not getting anywhere close to a Super Bowl appearance. And now they're not even a playoff contender. They're barely a wild card contender at this point in the 2023 season. In the big games, in the big moments, Sean McDermott does not know how to win a football game. He does not know how to win. And that is deeply troubling for a team that wants to win it all. Because when you can't win in the smaller kind of bigger moments in the regular season, there's no chance that you're going to win in the playoffs because you're going to need a vintage moment. You're going to need a coach that is level-headed, that has had experience before. And that brings up another big problem with firing Sean McDermott. And that it's, if you fire McDermott, who else is out there? Who else is out there with long, good playoff experience that can step in here and take these guys to the promised land? I'm not really sure. I put out a community post. It's still out there, so if you anyone wants to comment on that, go right ahead. But I don't really know who else is out there for the Bills should they replace Sean McDermott in the offseason. It doesn't really make any sense. So that, plus how long his contract runs for, tells me that Terry Pegula is going to probably keep Sean McDermott, even though he shouldn't. But that's going to do it for me here today on my little rant. Folks, let me know whether or not you think Sean McDermott should be fired, whether or not you think he is the right coach to take the Bills to even close to a Super Bowl appearance. I don't know. We shall see. But folks, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I was Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Thank you so much for watching and listening to a random guy ramble about the Bills for, 16 minutes? Yeah. We shall see what the Bills do over the final part of the season and going into the offseason. We shall see. But thank you anyways, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.